Hey everybody, John here from the esports department going over this afternoon's four-game LCS slate. Let me pull up the LCS while we're talking about this here. A fun little night last night. I think people got rewarded when we were going over the video. I was talking about how JDG just had to be absurdly highly owned, and I think there was some good rewards for people that didn't play them. Don't get me wrong, I think it was tough not to play JDG last night with how cheap they were and how easily they fit with the other teams that you wanted. But, sometimes that's what pays off in the GPPs is being a little contrarian. If you know everyone's going to be on JDG, sometimes you fade off JDG a little bit, and there's some reward for that. It would have paid off more to fade away from JDG if Top Esports had won, I think. But them not winning really set it up where WE was definitely the team to have. It was an interesting little night. Coming into the LCS this afternoon, we're starting to get to different levels of motivation for these LCS teams for sure, and I think it's going to start playing more of a part. Not as much today, but especially every day after today, I think we're going to start seeing motivations playing a lot of a part in which matches we want to be involved with. I talked about it a little bit in the Discord, but essentially the less motivation there is in a match, the better it is for you. Low motivation teams will mess around with weird comps, they'll fight more. Wait till you get to the point where there's two teams playing that have no chance of making the playoffs. They're much more likely to pick very weird stuff, battle each other all the time. Every dragon is a fight now because, who cares? And you want to pivot a little bit more away from teams that really need to win. Since teams that really need to win don't want to make any mistakes, they tend to play a little bit more conservatively. They're more likely to say, we might be down a little bit here, let's just concede this Drake and we'll come back later. Two teams that can't move in the playoff standings, go for it, man. Let's fight at the dragon, see if we can outplay them, have some fun. So that is definitely what we're going to be looking more towards coming into the last few weeks of all the seasons here, trying to target matchups that have very little playoff implications and maybe stay away from some of these matchups that are heavy playoff implications. So looking at our first matchup of the day, it's Cloud9 minus 290, 11-4 on the season, up against TSM plus 205, 10-5 on the season. So C9, a little bit of a slump. They're on a two-loss streak. Might be their first two-loss streak. They might have had another one this season when they had their other two losses, but rare that C9 even has two losses in a season as of recently. So again, the fact that they're on a two-loss streak, definitely looking like they haven't quite figured out this new metagame quite as well, but also probably has something to do with the fact that they don't have a lot of playoff motivation and they're willing to mess around a little bit and try to get some stuff done. That said, they do need to be top 2 in the league, and they're playing against TSM here, who is 3rd in the league. Both teams have high playoff motivation because the winner of this matchup is going to put themselves in a really good spot to take the top 2. If Cloud9 beats TSM here, they pretty much lock up top 2. I don't think it's 100%, but it's very, very close, if not 100%. It might be 100%, actually. And if TSM wins, then they get to bump up to the same record as Cloud9, and then it just comes down to who does better in the last week to see who's going to pick up that top 2 spot. So this is a really important matchup for both teams. I would expect that to drive down the scoring from what you would expect. That said, when you look at the stats, 1922 to 1765, big advantage for Cloud9. Goal differential per minute plus 302 to plus 51. They have an advantage in first blood, although first turret actually goes to TSM. A 21% advantage in dragons and a 2,500 gap at the average 15-minute score. This is, I think, a good spot to not play TSM. People are a little bit low on Cloud9 right now after 2 losses in a row. I mean, they're as low on Cloud9 as they've been in the last year. So this is a good spot, I think, to not go with what might end up being kind of chalky, which is to take TSM here and hope that TSM beats Cloud9. I think a lot of people are going to be thinking in that vein. And so I'm playing a little bit of Cloud9, I think, and maybe not very much TSM, especially considering I'd played more of them if this wasn't a very high playoff implication match, because I feel like that's going to drive down the scoring for sure. So this matchup may be not the best target. It has some really flashy, sexy teams in it that people are going to want to play, and it might make a good spot to not invest our money there and try to find some better matchups. Next matchup of the day, Golden Guardians, minus 225, 8-7 on the season, up against CLG, plus 160. They are 5-10 on the season. Low motivation for the Golden Guardians. They're just kind of stuck in the playoffs. They're not really going to move up from where they're at. They're not really going to fall out of the playoffs. So they're just kind of stuck in the middle there. They can definitely experiment and try some stuff out. Definitely makes for their matchups being a little bit more exciting. That said, CLG has high motivation. They do not want to fall out of the playoffs against Immortals or Dignitas, and getting a win here would be really, really big for them as far as making sure that they don't slide out of the playoffs. So I think Golden Guardians is still a good-sized favorite in this matchup. CLG might make a decent team to target today. They are playing against a team who can mess around a little bit, and they really need to win. So I could see CLG being a playable target here today against Golden Guardians. 1740 to 1705 in gold per minute. Gold differential per minute plus 6 to minus 120. First blood, first turret, both advantages to Golden Guardians as well, and they have double the dragon percentage of CLG, which is kind of wild. At 15 minutes, plus 711 to minus 1297. So just huge advantages across the board for Golden Guardians. We know they're the better team. As far as scoring, you'd only expect them to be in like the mid-15s. That might go up a little bit since they have no playoff motivation. If they end up winning in this game, they'll still be willing to fight a fair bit, so it might go up a little bit. On the CLG side, you'd be expecting like right around 15 from them, and I might drop that down a little bit given their playoff setup. So maybe another one where you could target CLG because I think that they're going to be more motivated to play a good composition right here and play the game very straightforwardly because they really need a win. If you play the Golden Guardian side, they could run it up a little bit. I think I like the CLG side more as far as GPPs go. Next matchup, 100 Thieves, minus 165. They are 5 and 10 on the season, up against Immortals, plus 120, 4 and 11 on the season. So here we have another setup where teams are motivated. 100 Thieves, they need to win this game just to make sure that they don't fall down there with Immortals and Dignitas, kind of the same as CLG. Immortals, it's must win. Like they can't lose this game or they're going to be done. So Immortals has to win this one. That said, 100 Thieves has looked much the better team over the course of the season. You can see that in the stats. It's another kind of lopsided blowout, 1730 to 1609, minus 73 to minus 246, 46 and 60 to 35-35, so double advantages there, a 10% Dragon Edge, and they're about 1,000 gold better at 15 minutes. Normally, this is a pretty high target matchup, I think, 17.6 to 15.7. Immortals with a 15 kill per win to the 17 of 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves are just generally a really good team to target in the LCS right now. This might drive that down a little bit. You have two teams that are definitely highly motivated. 100 Thieves is on a losing streak and do not want to continue to slid. I could see trying to pivot away from this matchup. I think 100 Thieves gets a lot of ownership on this slate, given that they're playing against one of the worst teams in the league and they're one of the bloodiest teams in the league. I could see 100 Thieves getting a lot of ownership. I may fade away from my 100 Thieves. My first inkling when I looked at this slate was to get all in on the 100 Thieves, but the more I look at it, the less I think I'm interested in being all in on the 100 Thieves. I'll probably play a little bit just because they are in kind of a dream spot against Immortals and being one of the bloodiest teams in the league, but I think maybe this is a decent spot to avoid them with it being an extremely high motivation game for both teams. FlyQuest versus EG. FlyQuest is minus 140, they're 9 and 6 on the season. EG is even money, and they're 7 and 8 on the season. And this is a great target matchup because FlyQuest has low motivation. They can't really crack the top two, or at least it's unrealistic to think that they could crack the top two. EG also cannot crack the top two, but neither one of these teams can fall out of the playoffs. So here you have your star matchup: two unmotivated teams who can definitely test things out and mess around. They'll definitely be more willing to fight over objectives and stuff. I think this is a fantastic matchup on both sides. All the stats, I believe, are all going to lean towards FlyQuest, except for gold difference at 15. EG has a slightly better off, and EG gets first turret slightly more. Other than that, it all leans towards FlyQuest, but I definitely think both sides of this matchup are super playable. I'm going to be involved with a lot of FlyQuest, a lot of EG. This is the kind of matchup you're looking for when you get towards the end of the season. Low playoff motivations, teams that can just kind of throw some stuff at each other and have a little bit of fun. 100%, this is the matchup I prefer to be targeting today. I don't even really care which side of the matchup you target. I just want to be targeting this matchup, I think. Let's look at the scoring for the favorites real quick. C9, FlyQuest, Golden Guardians, 100 Thieves. Now, this is the point in the season when I start saying that maybe we want to start taking these projections with a bit of a grain of salt, and we need to factor in those playoff motivations. There's not a good way to factor in playoff motivations into a straight math algorithm, so they're not going to be represented in the projections. At least I don't have a good way off the top of my head to do that. So do keep in mind that the playoff implications will affect the expected scoring here. FlyQuest, the highest expectation team, followed by 100 Thieves, Golden Guardians, and Cloud9, both a little bit on the lower side. Cloud9, I think, in general on this slate is pretty low. FlyQuest in first again in the jungle, with 100 Thieves after them, Cloud9 and Golden Guardians down there. In mid lane, it's FlyQuest again. Golden Guardians pops up into second, with Ryoma dropping down, and Cloud9 in last place. At 80 carry, FlyQuest as well. So it's definitely showing us that FlyQuest is going to be the favorite that is expecting the most points here. 100 Thieves roughly in that area with them. Cloud9 kind of on the lower side, and Golden Guardians is kind of somewhere in the middle. FlyQuest popping out as the big target as far as favorites go. Let's look at underdogs. So for the underdogs, TSM actually projecting the best if they happen to win, followed by Immortals, CLG's in third, Evil Geniuses in last. That Evil Geniuses in last number I really think you should take with a grain of salt. Historically for the season that's true, but I do think with the situation that they're in, I would bump the Evil Geniuses up in my projections. TSM continuing to be first, Immortals looking like they would be roughly the second in the mid lane. Insanity actually outprojects everybody, so Immortals looking like a good target as well. At 80 carry, it's actually CLG. They do put a lot of their gold towards the 80 carry and rely on a carry from them. So, and at support, it's actually Treats at the top, and Smoothie second, Hakuho in third, and Zazel in last. So I do think I'd take that EG number with a grain of salt, but other than that, it's looking like TSM and Immortals if you're looking for a high-scoring underdog. CLG may be kind of avoidable, but once again, I think CLG is in a pretty good spot today as far as the types of matchups that they're in. Let me look at maybe some expected ownership here. So I think 100 Thieves is going to be extremely highly owned. I'm going to put them towards the top here. I'm not sure that I'm going to end up with them in actual first, but I think they're going to be very targeted. I think Golden Guardians is going to be very targeted. FlyQuest should be pretty high. And C9 I actually don't think is going to be super high today. They might be above FlyQuest. I think they're going to be in the top 3, but not super highly owned. I think TSM will be the highest owned underdog. Probably followed by EG. Probably followed by CLG. And I think for the last place, I think I would do Immortals. 100 Thieves did take a rough loss yesterday. Maybe Immortals maybe moves up above CLG. CLG's on a 5-loss streak, haven't looked good in quite a while, playing against Golden Guardians. Yeah, they might be the lowest owned team. Immortals might jump up above that. I think TSM will be the highest owned underdog. And EG and Fly make a pretty good matchup. FlyQuest might be a little bit higher than this. I might be giving too little respect to the FlyQuest ownership, but 100 Thieves just seems like they're in a spot people are really going to want to target. Golden Guardians is in a really easy matchup, and then Cloud9's just Cloud9, so people always want to be targeting them. So I'm going to go with this setup. Not obviously 100% sure on that, but this is my estimation for this slate. 100 Thieves, Golden Guardians, Cloud9, FlyQuest, TSM, EG, Immortals, and CLG in last. If you're going to play the cash games, let's see, Golden Guardians is at -225 and Cloud9's at -290. What can we get out of, say, Cloud9 and Golden Guardians? At 216.5, it's a jungle captain. Let's see. Who else is? FlyQuest EG is not one I feel like you can really mess with. 100 Thieves makes some sense. What if we did Cloud9 100 Thieves? That's still a jungle captain and gets you up to 219.1. What if you did Golden Guardians and 100 Thieves? 222.8. It is an 80 carry captain with 400 Thieves. That makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know how safe C9 is. I mean, they're at -290 in the Vegas line. If you wanted to play it safe and you believe in Vegas, you could play C9 Golden Guardians. I think is definitely the safest set of lineups. If you wanted to take on just a little bit of extra risk for a little bit of extra upside, you could play C9 100 Thieves. I think that's the one I would definitely not play. If you're going to play 100 Thieves, I think I would just play them with Golden Guardians and take this 222.8. And if you want to play it on the super safe side, then you can play Golden Guardians and Cloud9 for 216.5. those are the two different cash lineups that I think are viable. You can always split them too, or play them both in the double up. There's a decent chance that both of these are successful lineups. Try that out. So I think that's where I'd go for cash on this slate. But that's all for me, guys. This is a fun little slate. I definitely am going to get max entries in on this slate because I think there's going to be a lot of value to be had. And the whole rest of the season, really, as people continue to target the same types of teams they've been targeting all season, you can find some really good spots based on the playoff stuff. So I think the whole rest of the season is going to be heavier entry for me than the previous part of the season had been. So that'll be all for me on this one, guys. As usual, hit me up on the Discord or Twitter, and I'll be back later for the LPL slate tonight. Have a good one, guys.